Have you ever wondered why so many traders fail within their first year in the markets, while a select few go on to build fortunes that span decades? What is that elusive secret that separates the professionals who endure from the amateurs who flame out? The answer might surprise you, and it's hidden in plain sight within the legacy of one of Wall Street's greatest legends. Has this ever happened to you? You enter a trade with conviction, watching it immediately move against you. Your heart races as the red numbers grow larger on your screen. You tell yourself it's just a temporary pullback, that the market will recognize your brilliance soon enough. Hours turn to days, and days to weeks, as your account bleeds capital one painful percentage point at a time. This is the moment that defines your future as a trader, though most don't recognize it until it's too late. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. In the shadowy corridors of Wall Street, a fundamental truth separates those destined to fail from those built to endure. The amateur approaches the market with dreams of striking it rich, obsessively focused on how much money they can make. They are hunters of gains, seekers of fortune, optimists charging headlong toward financial glory. Stay with me until the end, because what Richard Wyckoff discovered after both spectacular success and devastating failure will transform how you approach every trade from this moment forward. The professional, in stark contrast, approaches the market from the polar opposite direction. Their first, last, and most obsessive thought isn't on profit potential, but on how much they can avoid losing. This isn't mere caution, it's strategic wisdom. Born from market warfare, Wyckoff understood that a speculator without capital is precisely like a general without an army, utterly and completely out of the game. Think about that for a moment. What good are perfect entries, brilliant analysis, and impeccable timing if a single catastrophic loss can wipe your account clean? Every day, potentially life-changing opportunities present themselves in the market, but only those with capital intact can seize them. Millions of traders have discovered this truth the hardest way possible, by watching their accounts dwindle to nothing as they cling to losing positions, hoping for a reversal that never comes. What you're about to discover in Wyckoff's secret formula isn't just another trading strategy. It's the fundamental philosophical shift that transforms amateur speculators into market survivors. This is the iron discipline that has preserved countless fortunes through crashes, bear markets, and financial calamities that have obliterated the accounts of those who lack it. If you're serious about mastering the markets and want more insights like these, hit that subscribe button now. I'm committed to bringing you the trading wisdom that took me years to discover, all distilled into actionable strategies you can apply immediately. The transformation begins with a crucial mindset shift that most traders resist until it's too late. When Wyckoff spoke of cutting losses, he wasn't advocating a defensive or timid posture as many mistakenly believe. The hidden truth is quite the opposite. It's a calculated and offensive strategy. This is the art of the tactical retreat, the discipline of sacrificing a single, losing battle in order to preserve the strength needed to win the war. Behind the scenes of every successful trading career lies this counterintuitive revelation. Accepting small, controlled defeats is actually the path to victory. The market's journey is too unpredictable, too vast in its complexity for anyone to be right all the time. Even the greatest traders in history have been wrong, frequently. The difference is that professionals like Wyckoff acknowledge this fundamental reality and build their entire approach around it. Think about the profound impact this has on your decision-making process. When you enter a trade with a predetermined exit point if things go wrong, You're no longer at the mercy of your emotions. You've already made the difficult decision in advance, when your mind was clear and rational, not clouded by the fear and hope that inevitably arise during a losing position. Richard Wyckoff's personal journey through the markets was one of extraordinary contrasts. He experienced both staggering success and complete financial ruin, sometimes within astonishingly short time frames. It was through these brutal lessons, these market-delivered revelations, that he developed his formula for limiting risk. This wasn't some academic theory crafted in isolation from real-world conditions. It was forged in the fire of actual trading, tempered by the cold reality of blown accounts and missed opportunities. What emerged was a rule of iron, a principle Wyckoff came to understand was as vital to a speculator as air is to a living person. Without it, survival was simply impossible. With it, even the most turbulent market conditions could be navigated safely, preserving capital for the truly exceptional opportunities that periodically emerge. The brilliance of Wyckoff's approach was its simplicity. Complex systems tend to break down precisely when you need them most, in the heat of market volatility, when emotions run high and clarity of thought becomes elusive. His formula cut through this complexity with laser-like precision, providing a clear and unambiguous action signal that required no interpretation, no judgment call in the moment of truth. Now I want to go even deeper into this psychological battleground that exists within every trader. The formula itself is meaningless unless you understand the invisible forces working against its implementation, forces that exist not in the market, but within your own mind. These internal obstacles have derailed countless trading careers, and conquering them is perhaps the most significant milestone in your development as a trader. If you've ever struggled to cut a loss that later ballooned into something much worse, write in the comments, "I've fought this battle," because understanding these psychological forces is the first step toward mastering them. The battlefield of trading exists as much within our minds as it does on our screens. To truly understand Wyckoff's formula, we must first dissect the psychology of the trader who refuses to take a loss. This internal struggle reveals the hidden architecture of trading failure, a structure built upon two destructive emotional pillars, ego and hope. Ego is perhaps the most insidious obstacle on your trading journey. It whispers that admitting a mistake is weakness, that being wrong somehow diminishes your worth. This powerful self-deception transforms rational decision-making into an identity crisis. When a position moves against you, accepting the loss becomes more than a financial decision. It feels like a personal failure, a reflection of your judgment and intelligence. This resistance to reality creates a fascinating psychological phenomenon that unfolds in real time. The ticker tape, in its cold and impersonal language, delivers a clear verdict. Your judgment was wrong. But pride rebels against this admission with remarkable creativity. The internal narrative shifts from objective analysis to emotional justification. You begin constructing elaborate stories. The market is being manipulated. This is just a shakeout before the real move. Or the fundamentals haven't changed. Behind the scenes of this mental theater, you're no longer a speculator reading the facts of the tape. You've transformed into an egotist arguing with reality itself. The evidence clearly indicates your premise was incorrect, yet your identity has become so intertwined with your market opinion that accepting this truth feels impossible. As the loss grows deeper, the second emotional trap springs shut. Hope, that seemingly positive emotion, begins its destructive work. Hope is the great opiate of the losing trader. It whispers seductively in your ear, "Just hold on a little longer. It's bound to come back. You'll get out even." These thoughts provide temporary relief from the pain of acknowledging a mistake, but this momentary comfort comes at a devastating cost. The revelation that Wyckoff discovered through his market odyssey was that hope is not your ally in trading. It's your most dangerous adversary. Hope keeps you locked in positions that have already delivered their verdict. It transforms what could have been a small, manageable loss into a potentially catastrophic one that threatens your entire trading capital. Don't miss out on future trading secrets and psychological insights. Subscribe now by clicking that button below. Join thousands of traders who are transforming their approach to the markets with these battle-tested principles. This psychological battle happens largely beneath our conscious awareness. The decisions feel rational in the moment. We genuinely believe we're making sound judgments based on market knowledge. Yet underneath this facade of rationality lies a primal resistance to pain, to admitting we were wrong, to accepting a small loss now rather than risking a much larger one later. The most powerful transformation in your trading will come not from a new indicator or strategy, but from developing the ability to recognize these emotional patterns as they emerge in real time. When you can witness your ego constructing its defensive narratives without being captured by them, you've taken the first step toward implementing Wyckoff's formula with the discipline it requires. If you've ever caught yourself hoping a trade would just come back to break even, drop a comment saying, "Hope trapped me," because naming these patterns is the first step to breaking free from them. This hope-driven mindset creates a profound transformation in your role within the market. What begins as a deliberate, strategic decision slowly morphs into something entirely different. Wyckoff brilliantly labeled this phenomenon as becoming an involuntary investor. You're no longer in the trade by choice or based on sound, speculative premise. You've become a prisoner of your own mistake, locked into a losing position by the chains of your own hope. The invisible cost of this mental prison extends far beyond the growing financial loss reflected in your account. It creates a state of profound psychological torment that ripples through every aspect of your trading. Your mind becomes consumed by the losing position. You check it constantly, calculating exactly how much the market needs to move for you to get back to even. This fixation becomes the background radiation of your day, a persistent anxiety that colors your entire experience. What few traders recognize is how this decision paralysis consumes precious mental bandwidth. The human mind has limited capacity for focused attention, and a significant losing position acts like a cognitive black hole, drawing all your mental energy into its gravitational pull. Your judgment becomes clouded, your objectivity compromised. You begin to interpret all market information through the distorted lens of your hope for recovery. Perhaps the most devastating consequence of this psychological burden is the opportunity cost. While your capital and attention remain locked in a losing trade, the market continues to present genuine opportunities, the very kind of setups that originally attracted you to trading. But you miss them entirely because you simply don't have the mental clarity or available capital to act on them. This reveals a profound insight about the true nature of professional trading. A speculator is not paid for being right. They are paid for being right and then acting on it. And a crucial part of acting on it is to admit quickly and decisively when one is wrong. This capacity for immediate recognition and action is what separates the enduring professional from the struggling amateur. Wyckoff observed this pattern repeatedly throughout his trading journey. The psychological freedom that comes from cutting a loss, what he called selling down to the sleeping point, restores your most valuable asset as a trader, a clear, objective mind, unclouded by emotional attachment to past decisions. This mental clarity becomes the foundation for spotting and acting on the truly promising opportunities that continuously emerge in the market. The revelation here is that trading psychology isn't some separate, abstract concept disconnected from your bottom line. It's the invisible architecture that determines whether your trading account grows or shrinks over time. Your ability to recognize and manage these emotional patterns directly impacts your financial results with mathematical precision. What makes Wyckoff's approach so revolutionary is that it acknowledges this psychological reality and builds a systematic defense against it. Rather than trying to eliminate emotions altogether, an impossible task, he created a framework that protects you from their most destructive influences. If you've ever felt the weight of a losing position distorting your entire market perspective, type mental freedom in the comments, because the psychological liberation that comes from implementing Wyckoff's formula may be its most valuable benefit. So what was this powerful formula that Richard Wyckoff developed through decades of market warfare? The revelation may surprise you with its elegant simplicity. After all his triumphs and catastrophes, after all the complex patterns and sophisticated strategies, the cornerstone of his enduring success was distilled into a single, ruthless, mathematical rule. A loss on any single speculative commitment must never be allowed to exceed 10% of the capital invested in that trade. This was not a flexible guideline or a general suggestion. It was Wyckoff's line in the sand, the absolute final and non-negotiable limit of risk. The clarity of this boundary is what gave it such transformative power. There was no room for interpretation, no grey area where hope or ego could find purchase. The 10% threshold was sacred, a commandment to be followed with the same blind and automatic obedience with which a soldier follows the orders of his commanding officer. The philosophical framework behind this seemingly arbitrary number reveals the profound market wisdom Wyckoff possessed. He conceptualized the 10% figure not as a loss, but as the price of information. This perspective shift changes everything about how you experience taking a loss. When you enter a trade at what you believe is a pivotal point, you're essentially paying a small price, the commission and potential stop loss, to ask the market a question. The question might be, is this support level going to hold, or is this breakout genuine? The 10% stop loss was the maximum price Wyckoff was willing to pay for the market's answer. If the stock moved against him by that percentage, the market's response was a clear and unambiguous no. His judgment had been proven wrong. The case was closed. The trial was over. This is where the true revelation of the formula emerges. To remain in the position after that verdict wasn't speculation, it was insanity. It represented a direct refusal to accept the market's objective answer to your question. The market had spoken clearly, and any continued holding of the position was no longer based on evidence or probability, but purely on hope and ego. The psychological liberation in this approach is extraordinary. The decision to exit is no longer an emotional crisis requiring strength of will in the heat of battle. It's a pre-committed mechanical action triggered by an objective threshold. You've already made the difficult decision before entering the trade, when your thinking was clear and rational. The execution becomes automatic, a simple acknowledgement that this particular question received a negative answer. But why specifically 10%? Why not 5% or 15%? The logic behind. This number reveals Wyckoff's masterful understanding of the long game of market survival. The speculator who adheres to this rule has made it mathematically impossible to be removed from the game by a single bad trade. This quantum of risk creates a sustainable balance between opportunity and survival, enough room for normal market fluctuation, but a strict limit that prevents catastrophic damage. If you've ever wondered what specific percentage should trigger your exits, type 10% rule in the comments, as we explore exactly why this threshold represents the perfect balance between risk and opportunity in the market battlefield. The true genius of Wyckoff's 10% formula reveals itself through the lens of mathematical survival. When you apply this rule consistently, you create an unbreakable shield around your trading capital. Think about the profound transformation this creates in your long-term trajectory. You have made it mathematically impossible to be wiped out by a single bad trade or even a series of consecutive losses. This mathematical resilience creates an entirely different mindset. The amateur, without such a rule, lives in perpetual fear of the big mistake, that one catastrophic trade that could end their market journey forever. In contrast, the professional guided by Wyckoff's formula operates with a calm confidence. They can afford to be wrong multiple times in succession. 5, 6, even 7 consecutive trades can move against them by the full 10%. And here's the revelation. Even after this brutal sequence of losses, they're still in the game. Their capital, while diminished, remains intact. They maintain the most precious asset in speculation, the ability to continue playing. They're ready and positioned for the moment when their judgment is finally proven correct, when the market aligns with their analysis and delivers those outsized returns that make the entire enterprise worthwhile. Contrast this with the amateur who has no such rule. The single position held too long can easily decline by 50%, and here the mathematical reality becomes brutally obvious. A 50% loss requires a subsequent 100% gain just to break even. This is a Herculean task, often psychologically and financially impossible to achieve. The burden of recovery becomes so steep that many never make it back. The 10% rule, therefore, isn't just a risk management technique. It's the mathematical foundation of capital preservation. It acknowledges a fundamental truth that many traders never grasp. The path to wealth in the markets isn't through avoiding all losses. It's through ensuring that the inevitable losses remain small and controlled, while allowing the winners room to deliver their full potential. This perspective shift illuminates the core wisdom behind Wyckoff's approach. Speculation is not a game of perfect prediction. It's a game of probabilities and favorable mathematical outcomes. The professional understands that their edge emerges not from being right every time, but from creating an asymmetric relationship between the size of their wins and the size of their losses. By limiting every potential loss to 10%, while allowing winning positions the freedom to deliver 30%, 50%, or even 100% gains, the math works inexorably in your favor over time. This probabilistic mindset frees you from the impossible burden of needing to predict every market move correctly. Instead, it allows you to focus on the only thing that truly matters, the long-term expectancy of your trading approach. The decision to implement the 10% rule represents a profound shift from emotional to rational trading. It moves you from the realm of hope and wishful thinking into the domain of mathematical certainty. It transforms speculation from a high-stakes gamble into a sustainable profession where survival over multiple market cycles becomes not just possible, but probable. If the mathematical inevitability of trading success through controlled losses resonates with you, write "The math makes sense" in the comments, because once you truly grasp the power of this probabilistic approach, your entire relationship with the market will never be the same. Implementing this formula requires a profound philosophical shift, an acceptance of the market's absolute sovereignty. This is perhaps the most difficult revelation for many traders to embrace. The 10% stop loss is not just a risk management technique, it's a formal acknowledgement that the market is the supreme authority, and your opinions, no matter how well researched, are subordinate to its verdict. The discipline of following this rule represents a form of surrender, not of weakness, but of wisdom. It's the recognition that the market, in its collective wisdom, processes information in ways that no individual trader, regardless of their intelligence or experience, can fully comprehend. When you place a trade and it moves against you, the market isn't wrong. You are. This humbling truth is what makes the stop loss not just financially prudent, but psychologically essential. What makes Wyckoff's formula so powerful is that it removes the need for agonizing decisions in the heat of battle. The decision has already been made in advance, in the cold light of reason, before emotions could cloud your judgment. The execution of the stop loss becomes an automatic act, not a discretionary one. This pre-commitment protects you from your own worst instincts precisely when those instincts are most likely to lead you astray. Now let's examine the most perverse and destructive violation of this stop-loss principle, the deceptive pattern known as averaging down. This practice represents the complete antithesis of Wyckoff's wisdom, yet it remains tragically common among amateur traders. The scenario unfolds like this. A stock declines by 10% after purchase, triggering what should be an automatic exit. But instead of selling, the amateur buys more, believing they're being shrewd by getting a better average price. This psychological trap is particularly insidious because it masquerades as intelligent strategy. It seems to make mathematical sense on the surface. If you like the stock at $100, shouldn't you love it at 90? But Wyckoff recognized this for what it truly is, reinforcing failure. You are doubling down on an error in judgment, allocating even more capital to a position that has already proven itself wrong. The illusion of averaging down rests on a fundamental misunderstanding of what prices represent. Price movements aren't random fluctuations, they're real-time information processing by the collective market. A declining price is telling you something important about the underlying reality of the asset. To ignore this message by adding to your position is to willfully disregard the market's communication. Wyckoff saw this behavior as the exact opposite of how a professional should operate. The professional's job is to reinforce success. Indeed, to pyramid winning positions as they prove themselves correct. The amateur who averages down is pyramiding failure, creating an increasingly dangerous concentration of capital in positions that have demonstrated weakness rather than strength. If you've ever been tempted by the siren song of averaging down, type "never again" in the comments, because recognizing this destructive pattern for what it truly is represents another crucial step toward market mastery. The true revelation of Wyckoff's formula extends far beyond mere financial preservation. While protecting your monetary capital is critical, the formula serves an even more profound purpose. It preserves your mental capital. This hidden dimension of trading success is rarely discussed, but may be the most valuable aspect of proper risk management. A speculator holding a large, growing, losing position exists in a state of psychological torment that few outside the profession can fully comprehend. The mind becomes consumed by the position. Sleep becomes elusive. Every market movement triggers an emotional response. This constant state of anxiety clouds judgment, distorts perception, and creates a negative feedback loop that affects not just your trading, but your entire life. Wyckoff understood this psychological burden intimately. He taught the importance of what he called selling down to the sleeping point, the practice of reducing or eliminating positions that cause excessive worry. By taking the loss, by surgically removing the diseased position from your portfolio, you experience an immediate transformation. The mental fog lifts, the constant background anxiety dissipates. You are back in cash, objective, and free from the emotional turmoil of the bad trade. The small, definite loss on your account statement is the price you pay for this mental clarity, And it's a price the professional is always willing to pay, for they understand that a clear, objective mind is their single most valuable asset. This psychological liberation allows you to approach the market fresh, unburdened by past mistakes, ready to recognize and act on the genuine opportunities that continuously emerge. The journey to implementing this discipline isn't simple or linear. It represents one of the most profound personal transformations a trader can undergo. Each time you honor your stop-loss in the face of hope and ego, urging you to hold on, you're building a neural pathway of discipline. You're rewiring your brain's response to market situations. Over time, this consistent practice doesn't just change your trading results, it changes who you are as a trader. What emerges through this disciplined application of Wyckoff's formula is the hallmark of the professional. It represents the conquest of ego, that insidious voice that tells you the market is wrong and you are right. It signifies the banishment of hope from your operational toolkit, replacing wishful thinking with clear-eyed probability assessment. Most importantly, it demonstrates a profound respect for both the power of the market and the inescapable reality of your own fallibility. This combination of humility before the market's verdict and disciplined adherence to predetermined risk parameters creates an unshakable foundation for long-term success. It transforms speculation from a series of emotional reactions into a structured business operation with clear protocols and boundaries. The amateur hopes to get rich quick. The professional builds a sustainable career through disciplined risk management. The ultimate revelation of Wyckoff's formula is that this discipline isn't a limitation, it's liberation. It frees you from the tyranny of emotional decision-making precisely when emotions are at their most intense. It establishes a framework where consistent profitability becomes not just possible, but probable over time. It is, in the final analysis, the price of staying in the game. If you've had that moment of clarity after cutting a loss that you should have cut much earlier, write mental freedom in the comments, because that feeling of psychological release might be the most accurate indicator that you've made the right decision. In many ways, Wyckoff's 10% rule represents something far deeper than a simple trading formula. It's a philosophy for navigating uncertainty in all areas of life. The wisdom of knowing when to let go, when to accept a small loss to preserve your ability to fight another. A day extends far beyond the markets. It's a reminder that our greatest strength often lies not in stubborn persistence, but in the courage to acknowledge when our current path isn't working. If you found value in these insights, if something in this exploration of trading psychology resonated with your own market experiences, I'd appreciate you taking a moment to hit that like button. It helps this message reach others who might benefit from these same principles. For those of you who've journeyed with me all the way to this point, drop a comment saying Wyckoff's wisdom, so I know you're one of the few who truly understand the profound importance of capital preservation. This mindset shift doesn't come easily in a world obsessed with quick gains, but it's what separates those who survive from those who eventually wash out. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, consider joining us. These deep dives into the psychological principles behind successful trading aren't the typical surface-level content you'll find elsewhere. They're designed to transform your approach to the markets on a fundamental level. Right here, you'll find another video exploring the psychological traps that cause most traders to sell their winners too early while holding their losers too long. The perfect companion to what we've discussed today. Click over and continue the journey with me there, as we build not just better trading habits, but a complete framework for long-term market success.